Hello, Dynasty women. Some people walk into a room and command attention, others walk in and make the entire room question reality. Sigma females don't just break the mold, they look at it, smirk, and then casually set it on fire. They aren't the loudest or the flashiest, but their presence shifts the atmosphere like an unsolved mystery. You don't know whether to admire them, fear them, or just back away slowly. Here's a fact. Studies show that highly independent and unconventional thinkers often exhibit traits that confuse, intimidate, or completely baffle the average person. Now take that energy and amplify it with an almost supernatural level of detachment, unpredictability, and quiet intensity. That's the weirdest Sigma female. These aren't your everyday lone wolves. These are the ones that leave cryptic messages, disappear for weeks, and reappear with an entirely new philosophy on life. Probably inspired by a conversation they had with a cat. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the most bizarre, mind-warping, and absolutely WTF-worthy traits of the weirdest Sigma females, and trust me, by the end of this, you won't know whether you want to be one or just run in the opposite direction. Number 1. They argue with themselves in public and win. Some people talk to themselves in their heads. The weirdest Sigma females, they do it out loud. Full-blown conversations, debates, and even arguments, sometimes in public. And the strangest part, they always win. It's not just muttering under their breath or mumbling a grocery list. No, this is next-level self-dialogue, complete with different tones, counter-arguments, and the occasional sarcastic remark directed at themselves. It's not about being unaware, it's actually the opposite. They know exactly what they're doing, and they don't care. While most people would feel embarrassed to be caught arguing with an invisible opponent, they're too deep in their own world to bother with social norms. If someone stares, they might pause for a second, give a knowing smirk, and then continue like nothing happened. Their internal thoughts move too fast to stay contained. When they speak out loud, they process ideas better, challenge their own logic, and sometimes even surprise themselves with the conclusions they reach. They don't need an audience. They are their own best and worst critic. If something doesn't make sense, they'll argue against it until they find the truth, or until they get distracted by another thought entirely. People around them don't know whether to be impressed or deeply concerned. 1 minute, they're listening to someone who sounds like a philosopher breaking down the meaning of existence. And the next, they're watching someone berate themselves for forgetting where they put their keys. It's both unsettling and fascinating. The real kicker? They're rarely wrong. Their ability to dissect a situation from multiple angles, challenge their own perspectives, and refine their thoughts in real time makes them dangerously sharp. By the time they're done with their solo debate, they've already reached the kind of clarity most people struggle to find. So if you ever see one of them deep in conversation with themselves, don't interrupt. You're witnessing a battle of the mind, and trust me, they're already winning. Number 2, they reject compliments like they're poison. Compliments are supposed to be a good thing, right? Not for the weirdest Sigma females. Praise them, and instead of a simple thank you, you'll get a reaction that ranges from suspicion to outright discomfort, like you just handed them something rotten and expected them to be grateful. It's not that they don't appreciate recognition, it's that they don't know what to do with it. A simple, "You look great today," might send them into an internal spiral. Why are they saying that? Are they expecting something in return? Are they mocking me? Do I actually look different today, or are they just being polite? Compliments aren't just words, they're potential traps, puzzles that need solving. Unlike most people who absorb flattery like a warm hug, they treat it like a forensic case. They analyze tone, facial expressions, and hidden motives. Are you being genuine? Are you trying to manipulate them? Do you say this to everyone? Their brain doesn't just accept the compliment, it dissects it, looking for cracks. And if the praise is too exaggerated or frequent, forget it. Their discomfort levels skyrocket. They'll either shut it down with a dismissive shrug, awkwardly redirect the conversation, or throw a sarcastic remark back at you. If they're feeling particularly bold, they might even challenge you outright. Why would you say that? Leaving you scrambling to justify your innocent compliment like a defendant in court. The irony? They're often their own harshest critics. They strive for excellence in their own way, but external validation makes them uneasy. Deep down they fear that if they start believing in the compliments, they might let their guard down. And that's unacceptable. So rather than embracing admiration, they reject it like an allergic reaction. If you compliment them and they react like you just handed them a ticking time bomb, don't take it personally. They're not ungrateful, they just don't trust shiny words. Number 3. They have the aura of an alien trying to blend in. There's something off about them, but you can't quite put your finger on it. They look normal enough, they talk like everyone else, and they function in society just fine. Yet something about them feels like they're not really from here. It's not awkwardness and it's not shyness. It's more like they're studying human behavior in real time, as if they weren't born into it but dropped into it and are now trying to decode the rules. They observe conversations a second too long before responding, like they're analyzing the correct emotional reaction. They nod at the right moments, laugh when expected, and make all the appropriate expressions. But there's a subtle delay, a microsecond of calculation that makes you wonder, is she figuring out how to act human right now? It's not forced, though. If anything, it's effortless in its strangeness. They don't seem nervous about blending in, they seem curious about it. While everyone else moves through life on autopilot, they seem hyper-aware of the mechanics of interaction, like someone who learned human behavior from observation rather than instinct. They also have a habit of staring, not in a creepy way, but in a way that makes you feel like a subject in an experiment. When they listen, they really listen. No nodding absent-mindedly, no waiting for their turn to speak. They absorb everything, eyes locked on you like they're cataloging your words for future analysis. It's both unsettling and weirdly validating, like you're more real in their presence. Then there's the way they react to things, social norms that everyone follows without question. They hesitate, like they're internally debating whether this particular custom makes sense. Small talk? They engage, but you can tell they find it as bizarre as you do. Gossip? They listen, but with the detached curiosity of someone watching a nature documentary. It's not that they don't belong, it's that they belong differently. They exist just slightly out of sync, like they're living life at half a second ahead or behind the rest of us. And that's what makes them fascinating. Number 4. They make friends with people they secretly can't stand. Most people avoid those they dislike. The weirdest Sigma females, they befriend them. Not out of kindness, not out of politeness, but out of sheer unapologetic curiosity. It's not about faking a connection, it's about studying one. They don't get emotionally invested in people the way others do. Instead, they see human behavior like a puzzle, and sometimes the most frustrating, illogical, or even annoying individuals are the most interesting ones to analyze. Why does this person think the way they do? What makes them tick? Why do they act in ways that make no sense? While most would cut ties with someone they find insufferable, a Sigma female will keep them around just to observe the chaos up close. Their detachment makes this easy. Unlike others who get emotionally drained by people they dislike, Sigma females remain unaffected. They don't get caught up in drama, nor do they take things personally. If anything, they find difficult personalities entertaining. They'll sit back and watch, occasionally poking the metaphorical beehive just to see how it reacts. The weirdest part? The people they secretly can't stand often never realize it. Sigma females don't do passive aggressiveness or forced smiles. They'll engage, ask deep questions, and maintain eye contact, but not because they like the person. They're just collecting data, mentally dissecting every response, every insecurity, every contradiction. They know exactly who they're dealing with, yet they stick around, fascinated by the mess. This doesn't mean they tolerate disrespect. The moment someone crosses a real boundary, they're gone. No warnings, no explanations, but as long as the interaction remains useful or amusing, they'll keep it going. After all, why waste a perfectly good case study? Number 5, they emotionally bench people, like a coach. Most people maintain friendships out of habit, obligation, or nostalgia. The weirdest Sigma females, they treat social connections like a strategic game, one where not everyone gets to play all the time. If you're not useful, intriguing, or bringing something to the table at that moment, they will mentally bench you. No hesitation, no guilt. This isn't done with malice. They don't hate you. You simply aren't relevant to their current mission, mood, or mindset. Maybe you were once a key player in their life, but now you're on standby. They might check in occasionally, maybe throw you a "how have you been" text, but make no mistake, your role has been downgraded. It's not personal, it's efficiency. Sigma females operate in cycles of deep focus, self-exploration, and unpredictable shifts in interests. One moment, they're all about deep philosophical discussions, and the next, they're hyper-fixated on learning a new skill. If you don't fit into their current phase, they're not going to force interaction just for the sake of keeping up appearances. What's even stranger is that they fully expect others to do the same to them. They won't get offended if you disappear for months because to them, that's just how life works. The idea of constantly maintaining every friendship, responding to every message, and keeping up with social expectations, exhausting. Instead, they prefer an unspoken understanding. We'll reconnect when it makes sense. Some people get subbed back in. Maybe you say something interesting, take on a new challenge, or re-enter their orbit in a way that catches their attention. Others? They stay on the bench indefinitely, not because they did anything wrong, but because the game has moved on without them. Cold, maybe. Honest? Absolutely. And to a Sigma female, honesty always wins over forced connections. Number 6. They're addicted to chaos, but call it peace. Most people strive for stability, routine, predictability, a sense of control over their lives. The weirdest Sigma females? They claim to want peace, but deep down, they are magnetically drawn to chaos. They won't say it outright, though. Instead, they'll frame their unpredictable, self-inflicted turbulence as a phase of deep introspection or personal growth. To outsiders, their lives can look like a never-ending cycle of drastic changes, sudden disappearances, and impulsive decisions. One day, they're fully dedicated to mastering a new skill, waking up at 5 a.m. for meditation and journaling. The next, they've abandoned all structure, staying up until dawn, drowning in existential thoughts and questioning everything they once believed in. But ask them about it, and they'll calmly explain that they're just going with the flow or learning more about themselves. The truth, they get bored easily. Stability to them feels like stagnation. They crave movement, shifts, extremes, anything but a predictable, linear path. They'll tell themselves they just need one more big life change before they finally settle down. A new city, a new passion project, a sudden social cleanse where they cut off half their contacts overnight. And every time, they truly believe this will be the thing that brings them peace. But peace, in the traditional sense, isn't what they're after. They thrive in uncertainty. They need the tension of the unknown, the rush of dismantling and rebuilding their world. The idea of waking up every day knowing exactly how things will go? Suffocating. So they self-sabotage, not dramatically, not recklessly, but just enough to keep life from ever feeling too stable. They're not reckless, though. They don't create chaos for the sake of drama. They create it because it stimulates them. It keeps them engaged, thinking, evolving. They'll dive into problems most people would avoid, take risks others wouldn't dare, and constantly reinvent themselves just to see what happens. And when the dust settles, they'll call it a lesson, a transformation, a necessary step towards self-awareness, because to them chaos isn't destruction, it's just another way to feel alive. Number 7, they have an obsession with vanishing points. The weirdest Sigma females don't just exist in the present moment. They are constantly, almost obsessively aware of how things end. Whether it's a conversation, a relationship, a job, or even life itself, they are always calculating the vanishing point. They don't just live, they anticipate the exit. It's not just about wanting an escape. It's about needing to understand endings. They fixate on the moment when something shifts from happening to over. When does a friendship start to dissolve? When does a party go from fun to dull? When does a person quietly decide they're done with something but haven't acted on it yet? They notice these transitions before anyone else, often long before they are officially acknowledged. This awareness makes them masters of the unnoticed exit. While others might drag out goodbyes or overstay their welcome, Sigma females slip away the second they sense the natural conclusion of something. No lingering, no unnecessary prolonging, just a quiet, almost poetic disappearance. One moment they're there, the next they're gone, leaving people wondering, when did she leave? It also means they struggle with fully immersing themselves in the moment. Even when they're deeply engaged, a part of their mind is scanning for the perfect moment to detach. At a party, they're already picturing themselves leaving before they've even finished their drink. In a conversation, they're mentally preparing for the last word. In relationships, they subconsciously identify the first cracks, the inevitable unraveling. Some might call it detachment, but for them, it's a form of control. By anticipating endings, they protect themselves from being blindsided. They don't get caught off guard by breakups, job losses, or friendships fading. They see it coming, often before the other person does. And sometimes, just to maintain control, they'll end things first. Not out of cruelty, but because waiting for something to fade on its own feels unbearable. They don't fear endings. They study them, predict them, sometimes even create them, because to them, nothing is worse than being the last one to realize something is already over. Number 8. They answer questions in riddles without realizing it. Talking to the weirdest Sigma female can feel like trying to decode a cryptic message. It's not that she's being difficult on purpose. Her brain just doesn't process questions in a straight line. Instead of giving a direct answer, she instinctively zooms out, analyzing the deeper meaning, the hidden layers, the why behind the question itself. The result? A response that sounds more like a riddle than an actual answer. Ask her what she wants for dinner, and instead of naming a restaurant, she might say, well, hunger is just the body's way of reminding us of our mortality. Need her opinion on a simple decision? She'll hit you with, is there ever really a right choice, or just a series of consequences? She's not dodging the question. This is just how her mind works. Even when she's fully aware that someone wants a straightforward answer, she struggles to suppress the urge to philosophize. It's as if her brain refuses to engage with surface-level conversation. If she must answer, it has to be interesting. A simple yes or no feels like a wasted opportunity to challenge a thought, flip the perspective, or inject a little mystery. People either find this endlessly fascinating or incredibly frustrating. Some lean in, eager to unpack the layers of her response, trying to find the meaning hidden beneath. Others just stand there, blinking, wondering why asking her what time it is led to a mini existential crisis. The funniest part? She often doesn't realize she's doing it. She genuinely thinks she's answering the question, just in a way that makes sense to her. It's not an act, not a game, just an unfiltered expression of how she sees the world. But if you ever get a completely direct answer from her, that's when you should be worried. Because if a Sigma female suddenly stops speaking in riddles, it means she's either deeply uninterested, or she's already figured out exactly what you're going to say next. Number 9. They collect people like art pieces. To the weirdest Sigma females, people aren't just people, they're artifacts. Pieces of a vast collection, each one chosen for a specific reason. They don't make friends in the traditional sense, they curate them. Some people are kept close, some are displayed from a distance, and others? They're mentally archived, stored away like an old painting they've already analyzed from every angle. This isn't about being cold or dismissive, it's about fascination. When they meet someone new, they study them the way an art historian examines a rare piece. What makes this person unique? What details stand out? Are they abstract, surreal, classical, or just an overhyped forgery? If someone intrigues them, they'll keep them around, engaging just enough to learn more, to uncover the hidden layers beneath the surface. But once they've figured someone out, the thrill fades. The mystery is gone. And just like that, the person is placed on a metaphorical shelf, appreciated from afar but no longer actively pursued. It's not that they dislike them, it's just that they've already absorbed everything that made them interesting. The same way you wouldn't stand in front of the same painting for years. They won't keep investing in people who no longer stimulate their curiosity. This doesn't mean they discard people entirely. Some are timeless classics, the kind they revisit over and over, always finding something new. Others are passing trends, captivating for a while but eventually fading into the background. A rare few are masterpieces, those who remain unpredictable, ever-changing, impossible to fully decode. These are the ones who hold their attention the longest. The irony? Most people in their collection never realize they've been archived. The Sigma female is still polite, still responsive when necessary, but the energy has shifted. The deep, probing interest is gone, replaced by a quiet, distant appreciation, like a museum visitor nodding at a familiar piece before moving on to something more intriguing. And once you've been placed in the archives, there's no getting back on display. Number 10. They have an eerie ability to sense when you're lying. The weirdest Sigma females have a gift, or a curse, depending on how you look at it. They can sense lies with eerie precision, even when the liar themselves doesn't realize they're being dishonest. It's not just about catching obvious deceptions. They can pick up on subtle hesitations, inconsistencies, and even the lies people tell themselves. You could be saying all the right words. Your tone could be perfectly neutral, but if something, anything, feels off, they'll notice. Maybe it's the way your eyes flicker for half a second. Maybe it's a barely perceptible shift in your breathing. Maybe it's the way your story is just a little too rehearsed. Whatever it is, they detect it like a bloodhound on a scent, and they will call you out. Not always directly, but in a way that makes you second-guess everything you just said. They might tilt their head slightly, narrow their eyes, and casually ask, "Are you sure about that?" Not accusing, just curious. And suddenly, you're questioning yourself. Am I sure? Did I exaggerate? Do I even believe what I just said? It's not that they enjoy making people uncomfortable. It's that they can't stand inauthenticity. They have a deep need to get to the core of things, to strip away the fluff and see the raw, unfiltered truth. When they sense someone being fake, even unintentionally, it bothers them on a fundamental level. This ability makes them unsettling to be around for people who thrive on illusions. You can't charm them with surface-level charisma. You can't manipulate them with well-crafted words. If there's even a hint of dishonesty, they'll pick at it until the real truth spills out. And if you try to double down, they'll just give you that knowing look, the one that says, "I see through you." The scariest part? Sometimes they expose lies you didn't even know you were telling. They'll challenge your beliefs, your justifications, the comfortable narratives you've built around yourself. They won't just reveal the truth, they'll make you face it, whether you're ready or not. Number 11. They secretly want to be cancelled, for the thrill. The weirdest Sigma females don't fear being cancelled. They're secretly curious about it. Not because they've done something terrible, but because the idea of watching an entire crowd misinterpret them, dissect their words, and turn them into some kind of villain is fascinating. It's not self-destruction, it's not attention-seeking. It's the ultimate social experiment. They've always been outsiders, operating on the edges of social norms, questioning rules instead of blindly following them. So, the idea of mass outrage directed at them? It doesn't terrify them the way it would most people. If anything, it intrigues them. How does a narrative spiral out of control? How do people convince themselves they understand someone they've never met? They wouldn't be happy about it, but they'd definitely be taking notes. To them, cancellation isn't about justice. It's a psychological study. They know how easily people can be manipulated by groupthink, how quickly others will turn without knowing the full story. And if they were ever in the center of it, they'd watch it unfold like a scientist observing chaos in a petri dish. The irony is, they wouldn't react the way the mob expects. They wouldn't issue a tearful apology or beg for redemption. They'd either completely ignore the noise or lean into the absurdity of it, throwing cryptic responses into the fire just to see what happens next. A well-placed, fascinating interpretation, carry on, would send their haters into a frenzy, and they'd just sit back amused. And once the outrage cycle inevitably moves on to its next victim, they'd walk away, completely unchanged, having learned exactly how the game is played. Because for them, the real crime isn't being misunderstood, It's being predictable. Number 12. They bond over the most unhinged topics. Most people bond over shared interests, music, movies, hobbies. The weirdest Sigma females, they bond over the strangest, most unhinged thoughts imaginable. While everyone else is making small talk about weekend plans, they're casually asking, do you think time would feel different inside a black hole? Or what's the weirdest way someone could accidentally start a cult? It's not forced. Their brains just don't operate on the same conversational wavelength as everyone else's. They don't do surface-level chatter, and they're not interested in the typical, so what do you do for a living? Icebreakers. If they're going to connect with someone, it has to be over something interesting, something that makes both people pause and say, wait, why have I never thought about that before? They thrive in the realm of the bizarre, the unsettling, the why does this thought even exist kind of topics. While others might hesitate to bring up the absurd, they dive straight in, effortlessly pulling others into their strange world. And the people who get it, those are the ones they actually bond with. If you respond to their off-the-wall questions with equal enthusiasm instead of confusion, congratulations. You've just unlocked their respect. They don't care about politeness, and they're not concerned with sounding normal. If a thought crosses their mind, they'll share it, unfiltered. What would it be like to be trapped in a painting? Do ghosts have social hierarchies? If you were a medieval peasant, what random modern knowledge would get you accused of witchcraft? These are the things that excite them, the topics that make their brains light up. This doesn't mean they can't have normal conversations. They just don't care to. If they're engaging, it's because they see potential for something deeper, something weirder. Otherwise, they'll just sit back, silently observing, waiting for someone to say something actually worth responding to. So if you ever find yourself in a deep discussion with them about the logistics of surviving a dinosaur attack, or whether languages shape how we perceive time, congratulations. You've just been accepted into their world. The weirdest Sigma females don't just exist outside the norm. They warp it. They challenge. They disrupt. They confuse. They are walking paradoxes, distant yet deeply perceptive, ruthless yet unexpectedly soft, logical yet fueled by chaos. Conversations with them feel like riddles. Their friendships resemble carefully curated art collections, and their presence leaves a lingering sense that something just shifted in your understanding of the world. They don't seek approval, and they certainly don't explain themselves. If people misunderstand them, so be it. If they are labeled as too intense, too detached, too strange, they don't lose sleep over it. In fact, they might secretly enjoy it. Because for them, the goal has never been to fit in. It has always been to observe, to question, to explore the edges of existence itself. And that's what makes them impossible to forget. You don't just meet a weird Sigma female, you experience her. And long after she's moved on, long after she's vanished like a perfectly timed exit from a scene she already knew was over, you'll still be thinking about her, wondering what she saw that you didn't, wondering if, somehow, without you even realizing it, she just made you see the world a little differently. If this deep dive into the weirdest Sigma females left you questioning reality, laughing at the absurdity, or just feeling strangely seen, then you need to stick around. Hit that subscribe button because trust me, there's so much more where this came from. Like the video, if you found yourself thinking, wow, I know someone like this or maybe I am someone like this, drop a comment and let's hear your wildest take. What's the weirdest Sigma trait you've ever noticed? And of course, share this with your most enigmatic, unpredictable, and strangely fascinating friends. Because let's be real, if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person who thrives in this world of unfiltered chaos and unhinged brilliance. Welcome to the madness.